Welcome to this session of mindfulness and compassion meditation. I want to start with a couple of remarks about mindfulness practice. The idea is to be as fully present as we can be. And when I say fully present, I don't just mean present out there to what's going on out there, but present within ourselves, present to our bodies, present to our speech, and present to our mind, particularly our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. So that's what it means to be fully present and in the moment. Now, of course, we don't have a time machine, so we can't send our bodies into the past or the future, but our mind is like a time machine. And it can go and visit an imaginary future and what we remember as the past, which is actually slightly imaginary. Our memories are never exactly what happened, or someplace else in the present, again, that we're imagining. But we want to be fully present. Our mind and body need to be synchronized at the same time, same place. And that's here and now. And that's the only time and place that we can be synchronized. So mindfulness is that state of being fully present, but it is also the practice of returning to the present when our mind has wandered in its time machine capacity to the past, future, or someplace else in the present moment. Now, the good news is that although we think that our regular state of mind is distraction and confusion for most of us, the actual truth is our natural state of mind is the present. We leave it, we overlay it with thoughts that cover up the present moment. But we never have to come back to it because there's always some gap. And when there's a gap in those thoughts, that moment when we wake from a daydream, that gap, we're already back. We do not have to come back to the present moment. We're already there. We just have to recognize it. In the same way that when we're asleep and we wake up, oh, we're already awake. We don't have to say, oh, I was sleeping, I should wake myself up. Already awake. What we return to is the anchor that we gave ourselves for the present moment. And the main one for that is our body and our breathing. Our body and our breathing because, as we said, our body is always in the here and now. Our breathing is also always in the here and now. And breathing has particular qualities, the qualities of connecting us with our environment and showing that we're not so independent and separate from our environment because we're breathing in something that's not us, the air in the room, that's coming in and filling our lungs and becoming part of us. And then when we breathe out, we're breathing out what's part of us, and then it becomes part of the room. And you really can't pinpoint that particular moment or location when it stops being not us and starts being us, when it stops being us and starts being not us. The breathing is also something that happens without our having to control it or direct it. So it's something that we can observe that's an ongoing process, but not one that we have to run. And breathing is something that's a lot like life. We can control it to some extent, but not totally. If I ask you to hold your breath, you can do that for a few seconds. If I ask you to hold it for half an hour, not so much. So, like life, somewhat under our control, but not totally. The other thing about breathing is it's connected with our nervous system so that when we breathe in, it's an energizing quality. When we breathe out, it's a relaxing quality. So breathing out slows us down and settles us down, which is very helpful when we're under stress, because when we're under stress, our energy moves faster and up in our bodies. You know, people walk around with their shoulders by their ears and you say, relax. And they say, I am relaxed. You go like this and they go, oh, I had no idea. And we never say, yesterday I got a little bit down tight. We don't say that. We say, yesterday I got a little bit uptight. It's always up and tight. And that's what happens under stress. So the breath is a great mechanism for slowing us down and settling us down. And the breath and the mind are attuned so that when we're uptight mentally, our breathing gets very tight, very shallow, sometimes stops. When we're relaxed mentally, there's no issue with our breathing. But it works the other way around as well. When we relax and slow our breathing and settle ourselves with our breathing, our mind is monitoring it and saying, well, if we're so relaxed in our breathing, there must be no danger out there, so I can relax. So they work together that way. Now, I want to say something a little bit about thoughts. I was reading a transcript from a talk one of my main meditation teachers, Ursula Tenzin, gave many, many years ago. And he was talking about how we work with thoughts. We get very enamored of our own thoughts. We get absorbed and kind of almost hypnotized by our own thoughts, to the extent that they capture us, they hook us, and take us away from that present moment. Now, there are actual gaps between each thought when we slow things down a little bit. The thought process is not continuous. Meditators have discovered this, but we magnify our thoughts so that they kind of spread out and cover the gaps. So one thought overlaps the next and we feel like it's a continuous process. When we slow it down, there's a gap. And there's always a gap because otherwise we'd go off in a daydream and never come back. There's always a gap. Something pops that bubble and we go, oh, wow, where was I? It might be, you might be attending a lecture and you go, something triggers you off into a daydream and 15 minutes later, pop, you're back and you missed whatever was being talked about, but eventually you come back. So there are always those gaps. What we want to do with our thoughts is not give them so much power. So we don't react to them. When we realize in our meditation that we're being with the breathing, a thought takes us away, at that moment, have a sense of humor. If you get upset about it, you actually fuel the thought and feed it more power. So we just simply go, oh, daydreaming or wandering in thoughts, and you're already back. So you simply go back to the breath. Very often our posture degrades when we get caught up in thinking. You go, oh yeah, I was doing that, and yeah, and then that was going on, and that was, and we wake up and we find, oops. So at that point, smile, reinvigorate your posture, connect with the breathing, and you're back. Now, thoughts can be also thought of as like drops of rain that come down. And when there's one or two that don't distract us, just let them come. Or sometimes they're described as a bird flying through the sky or clouds floating by. Whatever it is, thoughts aren't our enemy. They're part of what we're perceiving. If our eyes are open, we see things. Our mind is open, we think things. It's kind of our sixth perception. It's only when they take us away and we lose track of what our intention was of being aware of our body and our breathing, perceptions and thoughts, but taken away into the thoughts, that's when we realize it, we make that little mental note. Now we might say, well, what about emotions? Well, emotions are like a heavy thunderstorm or a huge flock of birds or thunder clouds coming across the sky that seem to overwhelm us. but they're really thoughts tied up with a lot of energy. They're just kind of extra energy thoughts. They actually have so much energy that they make our bodies vibrate. So it's particularly important when we kind of wake up out of an emotional, being worked up emotionally, or during the day when we realize we got worked up emotionally, that we take a moment and use a grounding breath first, one or two grounding breaths, and then go back to simply filling and emptying. So that's something about how to work with thoughts and how to regard thoughts. Through the process of meditation, as we do this, when we don't give thoughts a lot of credit or a lot of power, what ends up happening is they get lighter. They don't take us away for as long, usually. And sometimes we can even recognize that feeling of drifting off and catch it before we get very far. We're sitting, thoughts, we have a particular thought that is followed by a similar thought that's followed by a similar one. We get out here about, and we go, oh, don't need to go there. And we're back. So that's some of the things that you'll experience in the mindfulness meditation. So let's get into it. And then we'll do the last 10 minutes of the session. We'll be doing a compassion meditation. Take your good posture. And the idea is to be upright, but not rigid. You don't want your chin floating up like that, or you get spaced out. You don't want to tuck and your head tilted forward, or you get kind of sleepy. But you want to feel like you're lengthening your spine and the back of your neck. And when you do that, your chin naturally pulls in. If you think of the back of your neck getting longer, you see how, watch this. I feel like the back of my neck gets longer, my chin comes in without my having to pull it in. It's very natural. Let your arms hang to your sides. Leave your elbows right where they are and just swivel your hands up, palm down on your thighs, just behind your knees. The alternative posture with your hands is to kind of make a circle with your arms. I guess it's more of a diamond, unless you have curvy arms, but make that diamond shape with your elbows straight out and your hands one palm on top of the other. There, like that. Right, just resting lightly in your lap. Thumbs can be just lightly touching as if you have a piece of paper between them. Feet, if you're on a cushion, your legs are crossed loosely, Native American style. If you're on a chair and your knees don't get higher than your hips, it's fine to leave your feet flat on the floor with your knees apart, knees and feet both apart, kind of hip width apart. And we start with our eyes closed. Just be aware, get fully present in your body. Wiggle your toes, roll your ankles, flex your calves, move your knees and upper legs. Shift in your seat a little bit. Feel your lower back, your belly, rib cage. Pull your shoulders back and forward to feel how, whether you're rolled forward too much or pulled back too much, you want to just not too much one way or the other, just centered. Feel your arms, hands, wiggle your fingers, your neck, jaw, eye sockets, ears. Now that we're fully embodied, let's clear out any unnecessary tension. Just by being aware of it, it kind of melts. And just let it melt as much as it will. We're not trying to force tension away, but just let go of any tension that we don't need to hold our posture. There's some tension to stay upright but not rigid, to extend the back of our neck. There's a little tension there, but anything we don't need, We don't need to hold our shoulders up for that. They can fall down. Just check your face muscles, your jaw. We have tension there sometimes. Around your ears and the back of your head. Neck and shoulders. Just let them hang. You don't have to work so hard to hold yourself up. Let yourself settle down. Upper arms, chest, and upper back. Rib cage all around. Lower back, stomach, and deep belly. More tension than we think in our deep belly. Again, you don't have to hold it in. Your posture actually keeps it in slightly, but you can just let go of the tension and let it expand and contract naturally as you breathe. That way your breath can go all the way down. Because when you relax your deep belly, your diaphragm is able to go all the way down and pull air all the way to the bottom of your lungs. Hips and pelvis, hamstrings, upper thighs, forearms and hands. Knees, ankles, calves, ankles, and feet. Let your awareness drift down in your body. Down behind your face. Feel like it comes down along the back of your skull, the back of your throat. Gently settling down. You move your awareness down in your body, like a leaf gently settling to the bottom of a clear pond. Down past your chest, down past your solar plexus, down past your navel, settling a few inches below your navel, just in front of your spine. You can feel gentle movement down there as you breathe in and out, like soft currents at the bottom of that pond. It's quiet down there. And as you breathe, just feel yourself sinking into the chair with each out-breath or cushion. With each out-breath, sink down. Sometimes we hold ourselves up. It's almost as if we don't trust the chair, as if someone pulled it out from under us, we wouldn't fall. Let yourself sink into the seat. Let your sit bones sink in. Let yourself sink down as if you were merging with the earth, as if your body is part of the earth. Like a mountain. And let your breath come and go without controlling it. Be an observer rather than a director. Like you watch the wind coming or feel the wind coming and going. You can't really watch the wind. It's invisible. You can feel the wind coming and going. And let your mind be open to whatever you're going to experience. Thoughts, emotions, perceptions, bodily sensations. Body like a mountain, breath like the wind, mind like the sky that's open to everything going on below it without partiality or bias. Let your eyes gently open. You can look slightly downward or straight ahead, whatever your preference is. But focus your awareness mainly on the space close around you and on your body. Doing that, it is helpful to have your gaze slightly downward. Not so much so that your eyes close. And tune into awareness of your breathing. Feel your body, the internal sensation, what it feels like as you breathe in. It feels like your torso is filling with air. And as you breathe out, it's emptying. And if you're not controlling it, it's like your body is filling itself and emptying itself. Filling, emptying. You might notice a little gap at each transition. Filling, gap, emptying. Gap, filling again. That sensation, that awareness, is the object of our attention for this period, with a general sense of our posture as well. That's the body that's being filled and emptied. And noticing when thoughts come and go, when perceptions come and go, just let them come and go. And if a thought hooks you and takes you away into a daydream, have a sense of humor about it. When you wake up from that daydream, just smile and go, oh, I was someplace else. Back to filling, back to posture, filling and emptying. We'll do that for a couple of minutes. Now raise your gaze to horizontal, maybe slightly above if you're looking at your device. Look above it. And now we're going to let the mind wander. But the parameters, the guidance for that wandering is wandering in the present moment among your perceptions. Notice what you're seeing. Soften your gaze and open up your peripheral vision. Notice what you're seeing. Listen in all directions, near and far. Notice what you're hearing. What are you feeling in your body? You might notice a smell in your room. Maybe a taste from the coffee or tea you had before the meeting. And thoughts that come and go like birds flying across the sky of your mind. Let them come and go without leaving a trail. Again, if you get caught by a thought and taken off into a daydream, when you realize it, just reinvigorate your posture. Take one out breath, go out into the environment and let go. We'll do this for a couple of minutes. And now we move into our compassion meditation with the intention that we transform our own suffering into happiness and the suffering of others into happiness. It's something that we have in common with all beings. Everyone wants peace, happiness, and joy. Everyone wants to be free from struggle and suffering. So imagine you can either leave your eyes open or close them, whichever works best for you. Imagine in your heart center a clear crystal made of light that has transformative powers. Anything negative that's gathered into the crystal, that energy is transformed into positive energy. So we begin by feeling any negativity you have toward yourself. We usually have an abundance. Things we regret, things we feel guilty about, ashamed of, frustrated about, irritated with. Feelings that we have but we don't want to have. Any of those feelings that we have but don't want to have As you breathe in, imagine that they gather from all parts of your being into the crystal in your heart center. They transform, and as you breathe out, the crystal radiates cool moonlight of kindness that fills your being with peace and happiness. Breathe in, gather the negativity. Breathe out, radiate to yourself cool moonlight of kindness that fills you with peace and happiness. Recognizing how much better that makes us feel, we wish that we could share that with everyone, and you can by thinking of all your loved ones, all the people you care about gathered around you. And you may want to open your eyes for this. It's okay if you leave them closed, if that helps you imagine. And as you breathe in, you're gathering into the crystal in your heart all of the negativity, all the unwanted feelings, all the suffering and struggle they have. And as you breathe out, you radiate to all of them that cool moonlight of kindness that fills them with peace and happiness. Breathe in negativity and struggle. Breathe out and radiate cool moonlight of kindness, filling them with peace and happiness. And in the world right now, there's so much illness, both physical and mental illness. You can include that as you breathe in. Gather any illness from yourself and from your loved ones. As you breathe in, gather it into the crystal in your heart. As you breathe out, that crystal has transformed it and radiates positive energy, cool moonlight of kindness that fills you with health and peace and happiness. Fills your loved ones with health, peace, and happiness. And now, as best you can, include all beings, even ones you might dislike, ones you might like, ones you haven't even thought of, all beings in the universe, all gathered around you, in infinite directions. But light travels to all of them. So gather in all of their suffering and struggle and illness into the crystal in your heart. It's not you, it's the crystal in your heart that collects these and transforms them. Breathe out and radiate out to yourself and to all beings the cool moonlight of kindness that fills all beings with health, peace, and happiness. We'll do that for a minute or so. And now let go of the visualization. Tune back in to your breathing, like filling and emptying, feeling completely present. And traditionally, we complete that compassion practice with an aspiration that we hold that intention to free all beings from suffering in our hearts throughout the day, and if we can, throughout the night. And it's expressed in 4 statements. May I and all beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May I and all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May I and all beings realize the great joy that goes beyond temporary happiness and suffering. May I and all beings realize the equanimity free from attachment, aversion, and ignorance. And we also traditionally conclude a practice with a dedication of the benefit. We do that because to practice just for ourselves, even if we're thinking of others, if we think, I'm doing this so I'll feel better, it has some power, but not as much as if we feel like we're sharing the benefit with others. Sharing has so much power. So traditionally, we recite something along these lines, and you can follow along with me if you'd like. May the practice we have just done be of benefit to others as well as myself. And if you're feeling particularly generous or want to cultivate that generosity, if you mean it, you can say, may the practice I've just done be of benefit to others even more than myself. So thank you so much. Before we switch over, I wanted to give people an opportunity to unmute yourself. You can all unmute yourself if you would like, and share something, a question, a comment. I think I allowed people to unmute themselves.
Okay, now.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, no, just thank you. I really enjoyed your practice. And yeah, it brought quietness on me, so that's a good sign.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a beautiful group that you have.
Yeah, and I want to thank you too. And I love that prayer at the end. I haven't heard it before. The 4 things. Is that traditional Buddhist prayer?
Yes, these are called, the 4 lines at the end are called the 4 immeasurable minds. Mm-hmm. And they are the greatest minds that we could possibly have. And that is these wishes. Now, the first one is the wish for all beings, and usually it's just said, may all beings, but I like to say I and all beings, or each and every one of us, so that we don't exclude ourselves. So may each and every one of us, or may I and all beings, have happiness and the causes of happiness. In other words, all of the situations that lead to happiness, and then the wish that all beings be free from suffering, not just in the moment, but the causes of future suffering. And then it's called the great bliss or great joy, which is a realization in the Buddhist tradition of a deeper joy beyond temporary happiness and suffering that transcends those. And then the last is equanimity. And traditionally, it's been translated as passion, aggression, and prejudice. But I translate it as attachment, aversion. And when we say attachment, strong aversion, and strong ignorance to the level that it brings prejudice. So that's the fourth one, the equanimity. Thank you for asking. Marcella, did you have something?
Yes, actually, I'm trying to write, but okay, I can say it. Joe, would you please, as I always have something, right? I always talk. I'm sorry. I love it. I love to talk to you. I like to practice the mindfulness. I have 5-year-old girl and 12-year-old boy. I really would love to do the practicing with them. Do you have anything, maybe other people, they also have kids? What do you think? How could I do this with them? Because this is actually, for me, it's more like for adults, right? But do you think, is this possible also for kids?
Well, I will tell you
I would love to.
I'll tell you how possible it is for kids.
I know, but I don't have it. I am in Poland.
But you can get A Walk in the Wood on Kindle.
Oh, I could?
Yes, and also you can get it on Audible. You can get me reading it.
Oh, that would be lovely.
So,
How?
it's the book is A Walk in the Wood, Meditations on Mindfulness with a Bear Named Pooh. And so you can go on to Amazon and or however you get your Kindle.
Okay,
ebook,
I can do that.
Ebooks, or on Audible, the audiobook. And in it, I introduce ways to work with children. Now, how old did you say your kids were?
5 and 12.
5 and 12. Okay, the 12-year-old can practice like an adult. The 5-year-old, basically, you can do very, very short times with them, but they seem to be able to get it to, especially if you go through, okay, feel your body and do the wiggling of all the body parts. And that will keep their attention enough. You know, wiggle your toes, roll your ankles, you know, lift your heels, lift your toes, those kinds of things, and do all of that. And then ask them, can you feel this? Can you feel this? Can you feel this? And don't make them need to answer yes, no, absolutely. I think that that's really the key, to say, this is what you can do, and say, let's try it together. And you do it together. And counting is good for them. I have an 11-year-old that I work with, a golfer, and he likes counting. So you can make it a game with them to say, let's see if we can get to 5. Or what I do with Winnie the Pooh in the book, Winnie the Pooh counts to 7 because he doesn't know how to count any higher. And then he starts over again. And then you count backwards. Can we count backwards? Let's do that and make it a game that way for them. And I think that that'll help you. I think you might need to unmute yourself again.
Okay, thank you very much. I definitely would try it.
Good. Okay. Now, did we have any questions? I'm looking for a second. Okay, that's great. Well, thank you so much. We're going to take a little gap here before we start the golf program. So thank you for participating in the mindfulness and compassion meditation session.